Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into some really cool research about a newly discovered predator.
Yeah, this one's a real game changer.
Seriously, we're going all the way back to prehistoric Egypt, like 30 million years ago. Right?
Wow.
Picture this, lush forests teeming with life. And at the top of the food chain is this incredible creature called Bastetodon.
And get this discovery is all thanks to an almost perfectly preserved skull found in the Fayum Depression.
Hold on, I thought the Fayum Depression is like a desert now.
It is. It's crazy how much that area has changed over millions of years. It used to be this super lush, tropical environment.
So imagine like palm trees and rivers instead of sand dunes.
Exactly. And hidden beneath all that, Sam, researchers found this amazing skull. It's like a time capsule.
This is blowing my mind already. So who found this skull? And how do they even know where to look?
It was a team led by Shahrukh Elashkar, part of the Selim lab. They were actually about to wrap up their dig when, bam, they stumbled upon it.
You've got to be kidding me. What a find.
I know, right? Talk about being in the right place at the right time. And from what I hear, they found the teeth first.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine that? Uncovering those massive teeth and realizing what you stumbled upon?
Must have been incredible. And, finding a near-complete skull like that is a paleontologist's dream. It gives you so much information.
More than just a few teeth.
Oh, way more. We're talking about the animal's whole anatomy, diet, lifestyle, even how it moved and interacted with its environment.
Okay, so spill the beans. What have they learned about Bastetodon so far? What made this predator so special?
Well, for starters, picture a creature about the size of a leopard.
Not too shabby.
But don't let the size fool you. Bastetodon had this incredibly powerful bite, strong enough to crush bone. Researchers even call it a hypercarnivore.
Hypercarnivore, what does that even mean?
It means meat made up over 70% of its diet. This thing was a meat-eating machine.
Whoa. So what was on the menu for this prehistoric predator?
Think early elephants, hippos, even our own primate ancestors.
Yikes, I wouldn't want to run into Bastetodon on a bad day.
No kidding. It was definitely at the top of the food chain, shaping the entire ecosystem.
That's incredible. It really shows how much power a single predator can have. But wait, why is it called Bastetodon? It sounds like something out of an Egyptian myth.
You're totally on the right track. It's named after Bastet, the Egyptian goddess of protection.
Oh, I remember her. She's often depicted with a cat's head, right?
Exactly. And the odon part, that means tooth.
Oh, so we've got a cat-like predator with powerful teeth named after a powerful goddess. It all makes sense.
Researchers definitely have a knack for coming up with catchy names that tell you something about the animal.
Speaking of names, didn't they find another related species in the same area?
They did. It's called Sekhmetops, named after Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of war.
Wait, so we have Bastet and Sekhmet, both powerful Egyptian goddesses, lending their names to these ancient predators. That's pretty awesome.
It really is, and it just goes to show how much these discoveries can tell us about the history and mythology of the region.
Okay, so we've got these two fearsome predators, Bastetodon and Sekhmetops. But they're both part of a larger group, right? The Hyaenodonts.
You got it. Hyaenodonts were around long before modern carnivores like cats, dogs, and hyenas.
So are we talking like the original top dogs, or should I say top cats?
Haha, you could say that. They were incredibly successful for millions of years, spreading across continents, from Africa to Asia, Europe, even North America.
Wow, they really got around. But if they were so successful, what happened to them? Why aren't they still around today?
Well, their reign didn't last forever. Climate change played a big role, changing the landscapes they were adapted to.
Ah, so even the mightiest predators can fall victim to a changing world.
It's a story as old as time, unfortunately, and it's one that we'll continue to explore in the next part of this deep dive.
You mentioned that climate change really impacted the Hyaenodonts. Like, how drastically did the Fayum Depression actually change?
Well, the Fayum Depression, it's pretty unique. It captures this period of massive environmental change. Like, we're talking a shift from the Eocene, when it was super warm, to the Oligocene, when things started cooling down globally.
So these animals were basically dealing with a climate roller coaster.
Exactly. And those shifts would have had a huge impact on the animals living there, including our Hyaenodonts.
So paint me a picture. What kind of changes are we talking about?
Okay, so imagine these lush rainforests slowly drying out. Like, first they turn into woodlands, and then eventually you have these wide-open grasslands.
Wow, that's a huge change.
Right, and it would have affected everything from the plants and animals that could survive to, like, even just basic things like food and water availability.
It's kind of like survival of the fittest, right? Only the ones who could adapt would make it.
Exactly, and that's where the ancestors of our modern carnivores come in. While the Hyaenodonts were struggling, these guys were just starting to appear on the scene.
So what was it about these newcomers that gave them an edge? Did they have some secret weapon?
Well, one big thing was their adaptability. I mean, these early carnivores, they weren't as picky as the hyaenodonts.
Picky.
Yeah, like they weren't as specialized in their diet or habitat. That probably made them way more resilient to the changes happening around them.
So they were like the ultimate survivors, able to roll with the punches.
Pretty much. They were opportunistic, capable of hunting different prey, surviving in a wider range of habitats.
Ah, so that flexibility really gave them a leg up as the world changed around them.
You got it. And it makes you wonder, if maybe the hyaenodonts who were so successful for so long, maybe they became a little too reliant on things staying the same.
That's a good point. Like, they got comfortable, and then, bam, the world changes, and they weren't ready.
It's definitely possible. It's like sometimes what makes you successful in one situation can become a weakness in another. Evolution is all about finding that balance.
It's a good reminder that change is constant, and those who can adapt, well, they have the best chance of survival. But this isn't the end of the story, is it? I mean, the extinction of the hyaenodonts kind of opened the door for modern carnivores, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like one group falls and another rises. It's a cycle. The ancestors of our cats, dogs, and hyenas, they had their own challenges and adaptations to deal with, and it's their success that ultimately shaped the ecosystems we see today.
It's wild to think that decisions these ancient creatures made millions of years ago, what to eat, where to live, how to compete, they still affect us today. It really emphasizes just how interconnected everything is, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. And it really highlights how important it is to learn from the past. Studying these ancient ecosystems gives us a deeper understanding of how nature works and how fragile that balance can be.
We've been talking about all these big changes, but the Fayum Depression itself, it was going through some pretty intense geological changes too, right? Like, it wasn't just the climate.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Right around this time, you have all this tectonic activity going on, like the formation of the East African Rift Valley. It would have totally reshaped the landscape.
So picture mountains popping up, valleys splitting apart. It must have been crazy. How did all this impact in animals?
Well, these shifts created new barriers, right? And new pathways for migration. It changed how species interacted and evolved.
So you might have groups of animals separated by a mountain range evolving in different ways over time, or valleys opening up, creating new habitats for them to explore.
Exactly. It's like this giant puzzle where climate change, these shifts in the earth, and evolution, they all come together. And the Fayum Depression, well, it's a pretty unique place to see how all those pieces fit together.
It really makes you appreciate the power of paleontology, right? Like, it's not just about digging up old bones. It's about uncovering these stories. And these stories can help us understand, well, everything. The past, the present, maybe even the future.
I totally agree. It's about making these connections, seeing how we fit into this grand scheme of things.
So we've talked about how adaptable those early carnivores were, but what do they actually look like? I mean, were they like the cats and dogs we see today or something totally different?
That's what's so cool to think about, right? These weren't the animals we see today, but like their ancestors. They were still evolving, figuring out those traits that would eventually lead to, lions and wolves and all that.
So not quite a lion or a wolf, but they were on our way. What kind of features were they developing that made them, like, better than the hyaenodonts?
Well, their limbs were changing, becoming more efficient for running so they could chase down prey over longer distances.
Oh, so they were getting faster and more agile?
Yeah, speed and agility would have been like super important for a predator once then. Not just for hunting, but also can avoid becoming, someone else's dinner.
It's like you got to be fast to catch a meal and to avoid becoming one yourself.
Exactly. But it wasn't just about their legs. Their teeth were evolving too, becoming not specialized for eating meat.
So sharper teeth.
Sharper, yeah, but also teeth designed for like shearing flesh and crushing bone. Perfect tools for taking down prey,
So they had the speed, the agility, and the teeth. It sounds like they were unstoppable. But beyond all those physical changes, did they have any, like, behavioral advantages?
That's a great question. It's a bit hard to tell just from fossils, but we think they might have developed more complex social structures. Like maybe they hunted in packs.
Oh, like wolves do today.
Yeah, something like that. That kind of teamwork would have been a big advantage, especially when food was scarce.
So it's not just about individual strength, but also about strategy and cooperation.
Exactly. Survival takes brains as well as brawn.
This has been so fascinating. It's amazing to see how all these factors, climate change, physical adaptations, social behaviors, they all played a role in shaping these animals.
And the Fayum Depression really gives us this incredible snapshot of how these ancient ecosystems worked, how those early carnivores took over.
It's a reminder that evolution is a pretty incredible process, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a story of survival, adaptation, and ultimately, the triumph of those who could change with time.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired after this deep dive. It's like, even when things are tough, there's always hope. And the more we learn about the past, the more we understand about ourselves and where we're going.
Yeah, I agree. This story of Bastetodon and the rise of modern carnivores, it's just one chapter in this huge story of life on Earth. And it's a story that's still being written today.
So to all our listeners out there, stay curious, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop being amazed by the world around you.
Because every fossil, every discovery, it brings us a little closer to understanding this incredible web of life that connects us all.
Until next time, 10 Season 65.